Hello, what is up YouTube? My name is G3Iron and today we are taking a look at our Week 7 Mid-League Meta Overview, where we take a look at the different factors and different classes, different changes that have been taking place in what's popular, what's hot and what's not, as it were, in the midst of the league for Synthesis League in Path of Exile presently. Now, one of the big differences that changes in metas over time in Path of Exile, one of the big factors is, of course, as players acquire currency. And so one of the things that I was fascinated by the data that we collected for this particular video was the number of changes actually, and the number of players, the delve depth that people are still able to consistently push with top end builds, as well as maybe some of the builds that you wouldn't expect to get as far as they are getting or to be as popular as they are. So without further ado, if at any point throughout the video you'd like to jump ahead or jump back to a previous discussion point, we've got timestamps that are placed directly above my slightly balding forehead, and those are all hot linked for you down below in the video description. So let's jump right in and take a look. We did a meta overview video guide during the third week of Synthesis League, and during the third week a couple of things became very, very clear. This league was going to be dominated by tricksters and by occultists, and nobody was going to be playing slayers or berserkers, which, what a shock, right? There were a bunch of changes that came through in patch 3.6 for Synthesis League that wasn't just the adaptation and the genesis of the synthesis mechanic, but also, of course, some major revamps to the top half of the passive tree in Path of Exile, which was a big boon for energy shield based characters and hybrid based characters such as the occultist and such as the trickster. Well, throughout the league, as we look at our comparative chart between week 3 to week 7, we're now a month past that meta-analysis, and you can see that still dominating at the top are still the occultist and still the trickster, although they've now actually swapped positions. Early on, during the first few weeks of Synthesis, it was occultist that was the top spot in both hardcore and softcore Synthesis League, whereas now the trickster has actually taken the most popular spot, with Juggernaut and Elementalist coming in and both swapping out those roles in the top spots. Inquisitor used to be a little bit more popular than what it is now. I've actually noticed that across the board, and it's pretty interesting to see the different build guides that are popping up surrounding Inquisitor, and how people were very excited to try out Inquisitor earlier on in the league, but Inquisitor has by far, at the end of the video, you'll see it has taken a big hit as players have acquired more currency to interact in the league. Moving on now, let's take a look at some of the deepest delvers in all of Synthesis League. I wanted to go on a class-by-class breakdown to see which classes were thriving most inside the deep recesses of the Azurite mines, as it were, hanging out with Nico. And for the Witch, it's pretty cool to see across the board some pretty healthy numbers in the softcore side. You can see on the left hand side of your screen the numbers, and the top spots are softcore. On the right hand side, those are all hardcore numbers. So at the top spot, we've got Boo WTF playing an occultist. He is level 100 occultist. His solo delve depth is 1904. In softcore as well, coming in at the top spot for the elementalist, we've got 952. And that's Enka, I believe. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right or mispronouncing it, but Enka is coming in with the Elementalist spot, and he's a level 97 Elementalist. And then representing the Necros, good old Summon Boys, raise your hand if you play a Necro, is huge door-breaking Salt, and he comes in at Delve Depth 617. That rounds out the softcore for the Witches. In hardcore, it's interesting to note that the pattern remains where Occultist is just the easiest to get to the deepest depths. It's potentially the safest ascendancy for which the occultist is. The only reason why I say potentially, I think that necromancers still have got a lot of defenses that are built into them that across maybe the majority of leagues, maybe they're more defensive. But right now, because of where curses are at and because of where energy shield are at, occultist is just going to blow everything else out of the water defensively. So don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying necromancer is better this league, but traditionally necromancers have had a pretty great time playing defensively. Then coming in as the Elementalist is Viceroy. He's at 451. Top spot as the Occultist, like I said, is level 99 at Delve Depth 583. I get scared when I'm at like Delve Depth 90, okay, on hardcore. So I give these guys props that they can push this far. And then Himzol is the Necromancer playing in hardcore at Delve Depth 265. When we move on to the Templar, you can see some of the numbers change. In terms of depth for hardcore, it seems like really 600 is kind of the benchmark for people really pushing, and there's not many people that have been able to hit it. In softcore, however, Delve 600 seems to be around where Templars are pushing. That could simply be because more players play Delve Depth, more players play Templar-based builds in groups rather than in solo delving. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. And so it could be that some of these numbers on softcore are a little bit timid because of that. These are only judging people based off of their solo numbers. It also simply could be because Templar is not that great of a delving class. And you see that across the board where both the hardcore and the softcore numbers are lower across the board. In terms of the Shadow, we've got Rolo the YOLO. What a great name. I just could not pass up that guy's name. It was just absolutely great. And the fact that he was on the top spot made it easy. He's a level 97 assassin at Delve Depth 600 in softcore. Then you've got Bob Deere at 812. He is a level 95 trickster. And then you've got the Blues Brothers coming in at Delve Depth 613, representing those Trapper Boys. In hardcore, you've got 273 for assassins. You've got 695. That's actually tied for the top spot. The guy who has the top spot in hardcore for delving, he's got it 2 or 3 times, but I think all of his characters are dead. But this is one of his characters that got down to 695 in hardcore before ripping. And then coming in representing the Sabos in hardcore is Delve Depth 460, which is very, very respectable. I think when you're looking at these numbers, again, if you're coming at this from a softcore player perspective and you're just wondering, hey, how far can I go, or how far can I push a build into Delve and really test my build and test the limits of my build, I think when you're thinking about the differences between hardcore and softcore, Delve is such a great way of seeing what your build can handle. Obviously in hardcore, if you make one mistake, you've got to reset and start all over again. But there is a sort of soft hardcore feel to accomplishing a delve, because when you fail a delve, you have to reattempt it. You don't have to rebuild your entire character, but you've got to reattempt the delve. So at least there's some cost to it. So I think there is a little mini element, a little mini heart attacks and little mini adrenaline boosts that you can get from diving and from delving deep into the mines. Coming in for the Rangers, we've got Raft with a Sail at 841, representing the Deadeye. Then you've got Moomsel Pops. I don't know. Anyway, I apologize if I'm butchering these names. But he's coming in at Delve Depth 1,115. That is a very respectable number on the Pathfinder. And then you've got K-Versian coming in as a Raider at Delve Depth 1000. That utterly shocked me. It utterly shocked me. And when you go and you compare other Raider players and what they're doing in Delve, they're just nowhere close. Like, this guy has figured something out with his build. He's got 9,000 life, 300 energy shield. His evasion is 31,000. But he's figured something out for pushing Delve as a Raider. I think the next closest was like a couple hundred, even in softcore. So maybe that could simply be a symptom that not that many people want to try delving as a Raider, but this guy's shown that you can push really far with a Raider if you really want to. In hardcore, we've got Delve Depths of 300 for the Deadeye, 339 for the Pathfinder, and then 276 for the Raider. I'm sorry, correction. Did I say 300 or 320? Anyway, 320 for the Deadeye, 339 for the Pathfinder, and 276 for the Raider. All right, moving on to the Duelist, one of the more defensive classes that's actually a little bit more popular in hardcore and has maintained some of its very low-end popularity throughout the league. Coming in for softcore, we've got Delve Depth 590 for the Slayer, Delve Depth 963 for the Champion, and Delve Depth 917 for the Gladiator. There have been a ton of Gladiator players that I've seen on the Delve ladder, and it's been fascinating to watch them because they're all playing, for the most part, different variants of Herald of Agony. So it's very interesting to see that different skills just straight up take on different content better, and they excel in different scenarios. And those are softcore players that are choosing to play Herald of Agony as a Gladiator, because again, when you're delving and you're delving deep, there is that mini hardcore essence to it, where if you die, you lose a bunch of your investment, you lose and you waste a bunch of your sulfite. So it's very interesting to see that some of the defensive classes, of course, they're going to be the ones that are pushing further into the delve, but just that they're maintaining their popularity across the board for deep delving purposes and for pushing the competitive aspect of the min-maxing of a build down into the delve depths. I like that. I like seeing that. It's encouraging to me as a Path of Exile player to see that there's still some players that value defenses when you're pushing into the darkness. Then in hardcore, we've got Delve Depth 200 on the Slayer, Delve Depth 358 on the Champion, and Delve Depth 695. Remember how I said there's a guy that's got like the same couple of characters, or he's got different characters at the same depth? This is his second character, who unfortunately has also ripped. It seems like 695 is just the magic point at which Jaya just can't push past it. That's not calling him out for it. He's got two characters at 695, and then one I think that died at like 693 or 691. That's incredible that he's had 3 characters get that far in hardcore in the depths of Delve. That's just really awesome. Coming in for Marauders, we've got Smooth Crystal King. He comes in at the top spot for softcore players, and he's delved all the way down to delve depth 1217 on a Juggernaut. He's a level 97 Juggernaut in Synthesis League. Then we've got delve depth 637 on a level 99 Berserker, which props to anybody that plays Berserker, but double props to anybody that can commit themselves to diving deep. I mean, look at how far that guy's gotten. He's gotten further than a bunch of other Ascendancies in softcore on a Berserker. So prime kudos to War Boss, I believe. Is that how you're pronouncing it? Anyway, I'm butchering everybody's names. That's fine. Anyway, you did a great job. If you ever see this video, know from at least just from one person that plays Path of Exile along with you, congratulations. And just like my hat, if I had a hat, I would take it off to you, sir. You've delved depth 637 on a Berserker during a league in which no one is playing Berserker. Everyone hates playing Berserker, and everybody thinks that it's dead as a class. So hats off to you. Congratulations, because you just win the respect game. Then the Temperadon comes in with the level 98 Chieftain at delve depth 600. In hardcore, we've got somebody that's pushed past just past the halfway point as a Juggernaut in terms of delve depth. This is delve depth 691. This is the third same character from that same guy that's pushed to 695, and 691. Then also in hardcore, we've got somebody that's crazy enough to play a Berserker to level 92 and made it to delve depth 162. And then for the Chieftain, you've got somebody that's delved all the way down to depth level 302. All right, so the biggest changes so far across the board in the meta are as such. And where am I pulling this data from? I'm pulling it from our previous video, from our early league metadata analysis, where we were looking at the different popular classes, and now we're comparing the different changes that have happened in those classes respectively to where we're at now. So the difference essentially is either plus or minus or no change whatsoever in their position relative to within 1 percentage point in terms of their popularity. So that's what this chart is, and you can see the Trickster in both hardcore and softcore leagues have gone up in terms of their popularity. A little bit more in softcore, a little bit more players are being influenced to play Trickster over the last several weeks than others in hardcore, but nonetheless Trickster is up across the board in both leagues, whereas Occultist seems to be the one that is losing in that regard. It's being pulled down 1% in hardcore, 4% in softcore. But then the other big change that I wanted to take note of is you see Inquisitor lost 5 percentage points in hardcore. It was up at 11% popularity within the first 3 weeks of Synthesis League, and now it's down to 6% popularity. I know for myself, from my personal experience, my first big rip in Synthesis League was losing my Spark Inquisitor in maps, in a tier 8 map. That was what I died to. So my guy ripped out pretty early. I'm not sure if these people are just dying and choosing not to make Inquisitors, or if people have simply made more characters that have passed over the Inquisitor. So, what do they say? 6 dozen or 6 eggs, half a dozen, like one or the other. I'm not sure which of those it is, but nonetheless, Inquisitor has definitely suffered in terms of popularity in hardcore league, whereas in softcore, yes, they've taken a hit, but the hit is slightly smaller because the popularity at its peak was never as large as what it was in the hardcore league. So it's down 3% in softcore. Other notable changes are actually the lack of changes. So what a shock that Berserker, Slayer, Chieftain, Raider, Assassin, Champion, like there's not much changes in terms of their popularity, because of course there haven't been buffs to those particular classes. That being said, let's wait about a month and a half to 2 months for when patch 3.7 comes out and the melee rebalance comes out, and everybody's going to be playing this. Iron, I'm talking to you now, or myself in the future. If this is you watching this video in the middle of the summer of 2019, I want you to take note. Just look. Can you literally just flip this upside down and reverse all of these stats, and you've got patch 3.7? Anyway, just take a look at those numbers. If you're watching this, Iron, in the middle of the summer, just take a look at these numbers and see if everything gets flipped back around. I would think that they actually will. I think that pretty much 3.7 is going to come in and we're going to see a flip-flop of what's popular. Thanks so much for watching. I've got 3 questions for you to drop comments on, of course, in addition to all of your own feedback and thoughts and questions and comments that you come up with on your own. First off, to prompt discussion, what has been your favorite build in Synthesis League thus far? For me, I think my favorite was actually my Spark Inquisitor. I have enjoyed playing my Righteous Fire Jug, but Righteous Fire Jug really hasn't changed that much, whereas Inquisitor I feel like got some serious buffs and some serious changes, and so that was really fun to play. And then what's been your least favorite build in Synthesis? I've got one on this one. I'll just say it. I've tried to level an occultist 3 times in Hardcore Synthesis League, and every time they die like in Act 3 or 4. I'm just done. I'm not doing it. This league, I'm not doing an occultist. I'm just not. It's not happening. Anyway, so that's been my least favorite build. I've tried to go like some kind of cold damage occultist. No, I haven't taken Chaos Inoculation too early. Yes, I'm building life, and defensively in Hardcore, but nonetheless, it's just that Ascendency for me this league has been my least favorite. It's just been the least lucky, I guess, or the least skilled. I don't know. And then thirdly, what build would you want to try out but you haven't had a chance to try out yet? I myself haven't really messed around with Trickster. I've leveled with Divine Ire on a couple of different characters, but I would like to try out a Trickster at some point. Unfortunately, of course, this is the Trickster League, and so everything that is Trickster related is incredibly expensive. So maybe I'll just wait until patch 3.7 and I'll get to try out a Trickster. I don't know. I've yet to really flip the coin or make a decision on that, but I'd love to hear from each of you what build you would like to try out, but maybe you haven't had a chance to yet before the league end. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and thanks in advance for all of your comments. I really enjoy all the discussions that we have together, and I hope today is the day a Mirror of Calandra drops for you right after you decide what build you want to play next.
Nice patrons, yes, good patrons. They're so kind and supportive.
I can't believe you watched that thing. That was good job. You did it. You got through the whole video. Yay.